Hello, people. It's me, John Avenger again. Sorry for me taking a little hiatus. I was busy at school, had a lot to deal with. I was just the weather was just over here was just terrible. It was kind of cloudy, but now I'm back with the month of Star Wars, and I'm going to review the second in the prequel trilogy, and that is Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. Now, when I first saw this film back in 2002, I didn't have the best theatrical experience, and it's not because the movie sucked to me. It's just that the crowd that I saw was completely dead. They didn't react to anything in the film. They were too quiet. They didn't clap at the end or anything. It was just a terrible theatrical experience. I wish I could have went back and seen it in Ziegfeld Theater, but oh well. I'm not gonna fault the film for that. Anyway, Attack of the Clones. It took place like about 10 years after the Phantom Menace, and Anakin is much older now. He played by Hayden Christensen, who I know everybody hates this actor. Like 90% of the world did. I didn't hate him. I mean, I've seen much worse actors like in the last 10 years, like Robert Pattinson is worse, and Kalen Lutz, and a bunch of other people. Half of the Disney Channel or Disney XD or Nickelodeon stars now, a lot of them can't act either. But he plays the much older Anakin Skywalker. Uh, he hold on. He is the Padawan learner of Obi-Wan, once again played by Ewan McGregor. He does a good job in the film. I think Ewan McGregor. They give him a lot more to do here than in the Phantom Menace. The film takes place basically. It starts off with the Queen. Now she's a senator, Amidala. She's about to go home, and there's this plot against her to kill her, and they destroy her. One of her, I think, her decoys again. Corday. She gets killed off. There's an explosion and it kills her off. And Captain Typho's there. I don't know who the actor's name, but he tells Amidala that you have to just keep doing your business. Things happen. So yeah, then after that you see the Jedi's are talking to the Chancellor Palpatine, played by Ian McDermott again, and he's saying, this I don't want this whatchamacallit republic to be split in two. My negotiations won't fail, and then they want to settle the dispute or whatever. So he talks to Amidala, saying, "Oh, I'll let an old friend help you out, so that he can protect you from your assassination attempt from the so-called empire, which they slowly become the empire." Um, then Yoda talks to this. Yoda's completely CG in this film, but I don't think he looks that bad. I've seen a lot worse CG. He's cute in the film. She feels more comfortable being protected by someone she knows, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Obi-Wan and Anakin, they're on their way to meet Senator Amidala, and they meet up with Jar Jar again, who has a much smaller role in this film. That's what a lot of people complained about in the first film. So they toned him down. They made him a senator as well. And I don't hate Ahmed Best. I don't know what it is. It's just I like his voice for Jar Jar. Everybody hates his character. I never did, and I'll never understand that. Anyway, he says, "Hey, what's up, Obi-Wan? It's great and you to Misa, happy to you seeing Yusa." I didn't mind that. It was a nice callback to the first film. And then Anakin locks eyes with Padme, and she's like, "Annie, wow, you've grown," and he's like, "Wow, you look gorgeous." That I'm just paraphrasing. He said, "You look beautiful," and well, what about they talk. She wants to know who's trying to kill her, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are like, "We're gonna find out who it is," and then Obi-Wan and Anakin have their little bickering. He's like, "Why do I have to listen to you, Obi-Wan? Security is not for us. It's not for the Jedi's. It's for someone else. We have to look for the killer and stop him for the would-be killer." And Obi-Wan said, "You will learn your place because I'm your master and you're my apprentice." So after they're bickering, you get to see Jango Fett in the background, and you have this other girl that she's kind of a part alien, and Jango gives her this tube that's full of these poisonous millipedes or centipedes. They look really really creepy. I know my mom was not a fan of that because she hates bugs. Anyway, later on, R2 is sleeping in the chamber of Senator Amidala, and he's protecting her, looking around. He hears a sound, and he has a light, you know, going by, searching the area, and then he just goes to bed. And then Obi-Wan and Anakin are talking. He's like, "Oh, I can't sleep," and he's like, "Why? Because of your mom?" And Anakin's like, "Yeah, I keep dreaming about her. I have these nightmares that something bad's gonna happen to her. Ever since I left as a kid, I left her back alone on Tatooine." And then they send something, and then they go into the Senator Amidala's room and they kill the freaking millipedes that are about to kill her. And then Obi-Wan is so crazy when I saw this in the theater. I still think it's badass. I haven't even seen this in an action movie recently. Obi-Wan jumps out the freaking window and catches one of these things that's tracking them, and it's awesome. He jumps right through the window, doesn't get a cut on him, and then they chase the killer of the would-be killer of Amidala. So Anakin follows up, and then he gets this yellow taxi, flying taxi thing that they fly with, him and Obi-Wan, and there's this cool space chase in Coruscant. The visual effects look pretty cool. Um, they track down the alien girl that she runs through Coruscant. They're chasing her all around through the town, and there's a lot of folks and everything. And then there's a scene in the bar which reminds me of the original Star Wars: A New Hope. That Obi-Wan's like, patience, use the Force. Next time, don't lose your lightsaber. This weapon is your life. And then Anakin's like, I try, Master. Yeah, see, people, he's trying. You give Hayden Christensen a lot of grief, but I don't think he's the worst actor ever. He's tolerable to me. And then they go into the bar. They meet up. They try to find the girl. Um, there's a guy that tries to sell Obi-Wan death sticks, and he uses the Force on him and says, "You don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life." And then he leaves. And then Obi-Wan senses the alien girl. He goes boom and cuts her freaking arm off or whatever have you. And Anakin's like, "It's Jedi business. Get back to your drinks." They follow her and they take her outside and they tell her who sent you to kill Amidala. And they said it was a bounty hunter named Pooh, and she gets hit with a toxic dart and she gets killed, and they don't know what she said. Then later on, there's the Jedi's Anakin, no, not Anakin, Yoda's training the younglings, and he's talking to Mace Windu as well about Anakin's being arrogant, and then it's going to lead him to the dark side eventually. Um, Later on, you see the what you call it, Anakin and Senator Amidala talk, and they try to pack so that they can leave and meet up with the officials to see what they can do about the problem. I think she goes to Naboo again, yeah. And Anakin's there to protect her, and they talk, and they talk about old times, like, wow, you've changed so much. And I think the romance works in this. I don't think this is the worst romance I've ever seen. I've seen The Host, and I've seen Twilight, so I have seen much worse. Anyway, long story short, Obi-Wan he meets up with this guy, Dexter, who tells him, he shows him the dart, and he says, where does it come from? And he says, I think someone could tell you where it is. They can these people in Camino. It's a planet that it rains all the time. It would be the most boring planet to live on because I hate rain. And Obi-Wan talks to Yoda about where Camino is, and he to send himself there so he can meet up with the aliens there that are building a clone army for the Republic, which is huge. It's basically a bunch of clones made up of Jango Fett as the host, and they duplicated him over and over, and they made a huge army. Basically, the clone troopers, which lead to the stormtroopers in the originals. So he meets up with Jango, which they have a little tussle. It's like, your clones are impressive, and Jango's like, I'm just a simple man trying to make a buck here in the galaxy, and he says who hired him, and he said it was Lord Tyrannus, aka it's Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee. There are going to be spoilers in this review, so bear with me. Anyway, they have a talk, and then you see Boba Fett as a little kid. It was good to see him, without his armor. The aliens tell, Obi-Wan, that the clones will be ready soon, and then he says okay, and then he sends a message to the Jedi's, Mace Windu and Yoda, and telling them that they're building a clone. They're using a bounty hunter called Jango Fett to build a clone army for the Republic, and they were like, wait a minute, we didn't authorize a clone army for the Republic, so where did this come from? And it said Master Cyclodius, which I don't know who that was. They mentioned him, and it's never mentioned again in Episode 3. That he was the one 10 years ago before, like in the Phantom Menace, that they ordered the clone army. So basically, Obi-Wan's about to leave Kamino, and then Django attacks him, and there's an awesome fight in Kamino, where he goes into the slave one. He tries to shoot Obi-Wan by flying, and they have this awesome battle in the rain, and then Django flies off, and then Obi-Wan shuts his lightsaber off. Padme senses that Anakin, there's something bothering him. He's having nightmares about his mother, and he's like, "Oh, I got to see her again. I don't know what happened to her. I'm gonna go to Tatooine, and I know she's in pain. There's something wrong." And she goes with him. They look for Shmi Skywalker. They talk to Watto, who you see again. He has a small part, and he says he sold her to a someone named Lars, like Owen Lars in the original Star Wars. They meet up with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, before they got married, and they meet with Klieg Lars, who's a crippled, and they said that she's been gone a month and she was taken by sand people, and Anakin he says, okay, I gotta go find her. He goes on the speeder bike and he goes to find her, talks to Jawas and everything. Oh, before that you had I forgot about the scene, the beautiful scene that they have in I think it's in Naboo or Coruscant, where Anakin and Padme first kiss each other, and it's really, really sweet. The music is really good in this movie. I don't care what anybody says. I think the score is absolutely wonderful. John Williams can still do scores like nobody else. It's like it's very subtle. It's not over the top. It's really good music. Anyway, they have their first kiss. I mentioned that. Anakin eventually does go to where the Tusken Raiders are. They're tense. He finds his mother all beat up and bloodied and everything, and he has her final words with her. She tells him, she's like, "Oh, Anakin, you're so handsome. My grown-up son, I'm so proud of you. Now I'm complete, and now I can die, with some dignity." And then she dies, and Anakin is ripped apart. And believe me, I would feel the same way, because I'm very close to my mother, and if something happened to her, I don't know what I'd do. I would feel anger, especially if someone did this to her. And Anakin just loses his shit, and I'm like, I sympathize with him. I can sympathize with him in a way. He gets pissed off. He has that pissed off face. He takes out his lightsaber and just kills the Tusken Raiders in cold blood. But really, it's not in cold blood because they hurt Shmi Skywalker, so he's pissed off. And then Yoda can sense it. He's like very, very just distraught. He's like, and Mace Windu's like, what's the matter? And he's like, pain, suffering, death, I fear. Young Skywalker is in pain, terrible pain. I'm like, yeah, he's emotionally distraught because of what happened to his mother. One of the things I like in this film also, besides the action with the Jedi's, is that they give Padme more to do in this film. She fights more. I forgot to mention that in the Phantom Menace, that in the third act she gets to fight more with Captain Panaka and the rest of them to break into the temple. Um, anyway, it's really good stuff. I love Natalie Portman in this film. I think she's very beautiful in this movie. George Lucas knows how to direct. Shots of her that he doesn't have to make her beautiful. He knows she's beautiful, so he puts her around in beautiful surroundings, with her and Hayden Christensen, and yeah, they do look good together. I don't think they're the worst couple on screen. I think Bella and Edward are much more, freaking painful to watch, and they're more boring. There's a scene that she has with Anakin that they're under like a campfire, a fireplace talking, and he's like, "When I'm with you, I'm in agony, and the closer I get to you, the worse it gets." And he's like, "Anything, we should just get together." And she's like, "No, we can't," And he's like, "No, anything is possible, Padme. Listen to me." And then she's like, "No, you listen." And I was like, "Wow, that's such a turn on a woman that actually can fight back a little bit." She's a spitfire in a way, and she's like, "You're gonna be a Jedi, and I'm a senator. We can't get together, and what will people say? And it's like, no matter how we feel with each other, it's gonna be weird, and we can't keep it a secret because we'd be living a lie." And it says, "Can you live with that, Anakin? Can you live with living a lie?" And he's like, "No, because it'll destroy us." So Anyway, they go to another planet later, Geonosis, which is a big mountain planet full of like rocks and stuff. There's these huge Geonosian bugs. They're like big dragonfly things with big mouths, and it's crazy. The creatures in this movie are great. I think the that green mantis-like creature and the giant rhinoceros thing, well, dinosaur-looking thing with the horn, and that rat cat thing that has a lot of teeth and is very furry and it scratches Amidala in the back once. I want to get through this as quick as I can with the synopsis because there's a lot to it. Christopher Lee is fantastic in this movie. I think he does a great job as Count Dooku. He has a red lightsaber. He has a commanding voice when he's talking to the Viceroy and the Geonosians or whatever about the treaty that they want to sign it or whatever or have you, and start building the Death Star for later on, the plans that they have. There's a lot of good action in the movie. I think the action, it works very well. The space battles are cool when there's a scene where Obi-Wan is flying in space and Jango Fett is chasing him with the Slave One and he's shooting the asteroids, and then there's this bomb that it's so cool. Like it blows up, you don't hear it for a few seconds, and it goes. I'm like, wow, that's freaking awesome. I don't know how people can hate this movie. They're like, oh, because it's a shitty sequel to one of the worst movies ever made. I've seen worse, people. Trust me. This year, when I get to the worst of this year, you're gonna see. You're gonna see. Anyway, back to that. There's some things I didn't like in the film, besides the fact that the crowd that I saw was dead. Um, Oh yeah, Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa. He is horrible. I'm sorry. He's underused. He does nothing. He's boring, and he's just flat as tap water. I thought Jimmy Smits, no matter who played this role, I think he just wasn't needed. I'm sorry. He's just the adopted father of Princess Leia that gets killed off in the beginning of A New Hope when they destroy Leia's home planet of Alderaan. Completely useless. He does nothing here, and he does nothing in episode 3. So Jimmy Smits was, I give him a thumbs down. I don't think he needed to be in this film. Anyway, in the third act, Anakin and Padme confess their love for each other. She's like, "I love you," and he's like, "You love me? I thought we decided not to fall in love." And she's like, "It'll destroy us." And she's like, "I think our lives are going to be destroyed anyway. I truly, deeply love you." And I'm like, you know what? That was a sweet moment. It could have been a lot. It could have been much more hammy and more shoved down your face, like in Twilight. That they can't even say a simple "I love you." It's got to be like them pressing against each other, and it just did nothing for me. Anyway, this big Colosseum battle where you see the creatures and you see the Geonosians surrounding the Colosseum. It's awesome. It's just like the dangers of Rome. Um, there's a huge battle in that scene where Mace Windu finally says this party's over. He has his purple lightsaber and he's about to fight. There's a ton of battle droids and super battle droids and Count Dooku and the Viceroy there, and there's just this epic battle that just goes on for like 20 or 30 minutes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that R2D2 can fly in this movie. In the scene that they're making the droids, you get to see C3PO a little bit more complete. He has a dark shell. He's not gold yet, but he's dark, and it's Anthony Daniels again with his great voice as 3PO. You have him and R2 talking to each other. It felt like the original trilogy. I don't know why people are like, oh, it's just it's fan service. Well, it's good fan service. Like the Lego animated shorts that I've been seeing this year, they're superb. They're great and they're funny and everything. But I'll get to that another time. But anyway, there's the scene that they take 3PO's head off, and then they put his head onto the battle droid's body, and they put a battle droid's head into his body, and it's crazy. The final battle at the end between Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Anakin is really cool. It's not as good, it's not as epic as the battle with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan against Darth Maul, but it'll suffice. Uh, Obi-Wan gets burnt because Dooku's very strong. He cuts him, his arms and legs, at least holes in him, and then Anakin fights him by himself. He's like, "Brave of you, boy," and then he's like, I am a slow learner," and he's fighting him. With one lightsaber. Then Obi-Wan gives him his lightsaber, and he has a double lightsaber. It's awesome in a way, but then he cuts one of them because Dooku's really strong. He has the power of the dark side, shooting through his hands. He cuts off Anakin's arm just like Darth Vader did to Luke in Empire Strikes Back. But then of course Yoda shows up and he's like Count Dooku. Yeah, this ends now. He takes his robe off and he reveals a lightsaber and he fights Dooku. It's hilarious. He's like a freaking acrobat, flying, going in circles and fighting Dooku one on one. And Obi-Wan, Yoda was gonna win the fight, but then Dooku gives him he does a distraction, and Yoda's uses the Force to protect Obi-Wan and Anakin, and he gets away. So basically, yeah, that fight was short, but it was pretty cool to see Yoda kicking ass finally, besides just using a cane. There might have been some characters I forgot, like you have Rose Byrne, who plays Dorme, I think her name is. She's beautiful in the film. I like Rose Byrne, but this year she was a little bit she had a little too much oversaturation. Like she was overexposed this year. But back in 2002, she was a newbie, and she has a very nice face. I don't mind her in the film for what she has to do. But yeah, in the ending, you get to see Tyrannus, Count Dooku. He meets up with Lord Sidious, and he tells them that the plan everything is going as planned, and we're gonna build our empire and everything. And then the film ends with Anakin marrying Padme in their home in Naboo, and he has a golden hand, which looks pretty cool. It's not CG. It looks really good. And he holds her hand, and then they kiss, and then it's the end of the movie. And there's a nice sunset. So Attack of the Clones, it is not as bad as the Clone Wars movie from 2008. Also, I forgot to mention that the battles. I mentioned the battles, but the Clone Wars battle between the clone troopers when Yoda shows up later and they fight the freaking the battle droids and the super battle droids. It's pretty good stuff. It's a lot of eye candy, but I don't think the story's that flat. You get some new worlds like Geonosis and Camino and everything, and I don't think it's a very underrated sequel. I think Attack of the Clones. It is what it is. I don't hate this movie. I wish I would have seen it with a better crowd, because I saw the Phantom Menace twice in the theater, and the crowd for both times it was really good. But when we get to the next one, which is Episode 3, I'm going to tell you about my epic, pretty much, theater experience. Even though for half of it I had to go to the bathroom, but I'll get to that. I'll get to that one next. It's going to be Revenge of the Sith. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If I forgot anything, I'll just mention it in my next video. See you later, guys. Peace.